So let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to take you on a journey to transform you from a passive page turner into a truly active, deep reader. Think about the modern reader's dilemma for just a second. You know how it is. We're constantly bombarded with endless distractions, notifications, and bite-sized content. And honestly, it's conditioned us to consume information incredibly passively. But reading shouldn't be passive, right? It should be this deliberate, intentional expedition for your mind. It's a real, active interaction between you and the author, and over time, that interaction fundamentally shapes both your conscious and subconscious. So, to break out of that endless scroll and forget habit and actually reap the profound benefits of reading, we need a highly structured, chronological approach. Now, what's really interesting here is that this question highlights a deeply universal frustration. I mean, have you ever spent weeks reading a totally fascinating book, close the final cover feeling incredibly inspired, only to wake up the very next day and realize you can't articulate a single main point to a friend? It's the worst. We often feel like we're just wasting precious time because we completely lack a true system for absorbing the knowledge. We flip through the pages, we let the words just wash over us, but the real, lasting impact of the book just slips right away into the void. To fix this, we're going to break down the ultimate reading methodology into 5 parts: preparation before you read, focus during the read, application after the read, the mindset of patience, and finally, some recommended reading. All right, starting with phase 1, preparation, or what you need to do before you read. Look, before you even crack open the cover, you must actively prepare if you want to prevent the failures of the past. First things first, set a specific goal. Ask yourself, why are you actually reading this? Is it to extract new literary techniques? Or maybe you're reading specifically to improve your language skills? Or is it just for enjoyment? Defining this ahead of time totally primes your brain for exactly what to look for. Second, choose your environment carefully. Go find a quiet, relaxing spot, maybe grab your coffee. Third, determine the exact amount you plan to read. Will it be strictly 50 pages, exactly 1 hour? The psychological benefit of setting the strict boundary is absolutely massive. It completely prevents reading burnout because your brain knows there's a defined finish line. And finally, prepare your tools. Whether you prefer a physical notebook, colored highlighters, or a digital notes app, having them ready beforehand stops you from breaking your precious focus to go hunt for a pen later. Moving right along to phase 2, focus. This is all about what happens during the read. So, the crucial point here is understanding a major duality. Fast reading is all about volume, rushing through just to get the gist of the book and maximize the sheer quantity of pages you read. Think of it kind of like grabbing fast food on a road trip. It serves a basic purpose, sure, but it completely lacks true nourishment. Deep reading, which is our real focus today, demands an intense focus on quality and comprehension. It's a multi-course sit-down meal that you really have to savor. To read deeply, you've got to strive to slow down and understand every single sentence and every complex concept the author is presenting to you, rather than just chewing through pages to hit some arbitrary daily quota. To actually achieve this deep reading state, you should actively interrogate the text. Be asking continuous questions like, why did the author use this specific example? Write down the main ideas as you go. A fantastic, incredibly practical technique is to color code your margin notes. For instance, maybe use a purple highlighter for educational tips and a yellow one for brand new facts. But listen, here is the most crucial insight of this entire phase. You must stop reading immediately if your comprehension drops. We all have that deeply ingrained instinct to just push through, right? To finish those last 10 pages of a chapter, even when our eyes are totally glazing over. But in deep reading, pushing through actually damages your comprehension and creates this false sense of learning. So if your brain feels full and you stop understanding, give yourself permission to simply close the book and come back another time. No guilt. Okay, phase 3, application. What to do after the read. Just because you finish the pages doesn't mean you're done. To truly lock in what you've learned, you have to enter the application phase. First, review those notes you took and consciously try to connect those ideas together. Second, physically explain the book's concepts to the people around you. This leverages a massive pedagogical tool often called the Feynman technique. Try summarizing a chapter to your spouse at the dinner table, or maybe a coworker over coffee. Why? Because when you teach someone else, it forces your brain to immediately identify the gaps in your own understanding. The person who explains a concept absorbs it infinitely better than someone who just keeps it locked away in their own mind. And finally, you have to immediately apply these newly synthesized lessons to your real everyday life. This whole concept beautifully echoes a famous, profoundly weighty Arabic proverb, which reminds us that knowledge literally calls out to action. If answered, it stays, otherwise it departs.
Think about the sheer gravity of that for a moment. If you learn a new practical skill, or perhaps a new form of worship from a book, and you don't actually put it into practice, that hard-earned knowledge will simply vanish. It'll leave you. You absolutely have to use it in order to keep it.
Next up, part 4, the mindset of patience. True literacy requires a diverse diet, and that starts with what we call vertical knowledge. This means taking one singular field and diving as deep as possible into it, reading everything you can until you reach the absolute bottom to gain true specialized expertise. For instance, if your chosen vertical knowledge area is Islamic jurisprudence, well, you don't just read surface-level summaries. You read the foundational texts, the historical commentaries, the detailed debates, all of it, until you know the absolute foundations inside and out. It gives you a profound, firmly grounded anchor. But here's the catch. You must pair that deep, vertical expertise with horizontal knowledge. This is the concept of taking a drop from every other science and field out there. By reading diversely across many different subjects, like history, psychology, economics, you build an incredibly rich, broad, and encyclopedic culture. When you synthesize this with the vertical knowledge we just talked about, you essentially build what's called a T-shaped intellect. You are deeply rooted and specialized in one specific area, but broad enough to understand and intelligently connect with a vast array of other disciplines. Now, to truly grasp why this specific type of reading requires immense patience, consider this highly profound story from our source material. A student once came to his teacher feeling deeply frustrated. He complained that he felt absolutely no immediate benefit or change from all the hours he had spent reading. But instead of lecturing him, the teacher did something entirely unexpected. He simply handed the student a single date and instructed him to eat it. So after the student ate the date, the teacher looked at him and asked, "Did that date instantly make you taller? Did it instantly make you stronger?" The student obviously replied, "No." The teacher then explained that even though the change wasn't instant, that date quietly became flesh, bone, and nerve. It nourished him from the inside out. And reading works the exact same way. Just like physical food, mental food changes the literal architecture of your brain over time. It subtly, cumulatively expands your intellect, your vocabulary, and your character, even if you can't see the shift in the mirror on a daily basis. Finally, Section 5, Recommended Reading. When you're building this habit, you should always start with light, enjoyable books that perfectly fit your current level, rather than tackling heavy, overly complex text right out of the gate. Pick topics you genuinely love. If you're looking for excellent starting points for beginners, our source highly recommends Dr. Abdul Karim Bakar's Fruitful Reading and Michel Falahi's Reading and Rising Questions. These are fantastic because they don't just tell you to read, they provide incredibly clear, actionable mechanisms for how to read, all within a very manageable, totally unintimidating size. For example, Dr. Bakar's work specifically breaks down how to categorize different types of books so you know exactly what mental strategy to apply before you even turn the very first page. We want to leave you with this profound thought to reflect on today. Reading isn't merely a hobby. It is the ultimate key to human development. In fact, think about this. The very first divine command revealed in Surah Al-Alaq was simply read. Knowing this gravity, how will you use these new deep reading strategies to fundamentally transform your own life? I challenge you, the very next time you pick up a book, to just pause and strictly apply the preparation phase we discussed today before you read a single word. Take these tools, prepare your environment, read deeply, and apply your knowledge. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. And until next time, keep learning.